for this meeting, as well as ASL. So if you like to access the ASL interpretation, once the feature is activated, if you're joining with a computer, you'll see a globe at the bottom of your Zoom menu. Please select the globe and select ASL. If you're joining with a cell phone or a tablet, your options will be a bit different. You need to tap your screen and find the menu with the three dots with the word more, either on top or at the bottom of your screen. Select language interpretation, select ASL, and select done. If you need any help accessing the channels once the meeting starts, please let us know in the chat and we can assist you. And now I'm going to give my instructions in Spanish. Buenas tardes a todos, bienvenidos. Queremos recordarles que para esta reunión tenemos interpretación simultánea al español. Si ustedes desean escuchar la junta en español, una vez que la función sea activada, van a ver el icono de un mundo en la parte de abajo de su pantalla. Por favor, seleccionen ese icono y seleccionen el canal de español. Si ustedes ingresaron utilizando un teléfono móvil o una tableta, sus opciones se van a ver un poquito diferentes. Necesitan tocar su pantalla y van a buscar el menú de los tres puntitos que aparece ya sea en la parte de arriba o de abajo de su pantalla. Seleccionen donde dice interpretación, después seleccionen español y por último el botón que dice done, listo o finalizado. Si necesitan ayuda accesando el canal, una vez que se active la función, pueden dejar saberme en el chat y yo puedo ayudarles. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tanya. Again, good afternoon and welcome to the Altadena Community Meeting. We have a few short presentations and then we will answer questions that have been pre-submitted by community members. Zoom attendees can submit questions in real time using the question and answer function on your screen. Agency representatives are on the Zoom meeting responding live. Note that questions submitted to the YouTube live chat will not be answered. Turning it over now to our first presenter, Colonel Abichon.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for allowing me to speak today. I'll open up with a general update, and then I'll talk about some specific issues. So for awareness, right now we have 5,735 people who have opted into the program. This is an increase of about 20 since the last update. And then there are 463 people who have opted out of the program. In terms of our progress, cleared properties, so this is the removal of that fire ash debris. We have cleared 5,337, which is about 93%, and that is as of this morning. And then we have completed and returned the right of entry back to the county for 5,021 properties, which is 87% complete with our total amount that we have up to date so far. Right now, we also have 33 debris removal crews currently working in Altadena. A couple special updates here. So we've been talking a lot the last few weeks about special inclusion properties. These are those private nonprofits and public properties, churches, etc. We have continued to increase the number of those. Right now we have 43 total properties that fit into that category, and we should be complete with about 20 of them by the end of today. In terms of commercial properties, we did get a decision from FEMA. So we received 26 commercial properties in Altadena, which are now eligible for the debris removal program. The majority of these properties are located on Lake Avenue, and that's really between Altadena Avenue and Woodbury Road. And then the other grouping is on Fair Oaks, the vicinity of kind of Altadena, Calaveras, that area on Fair Oaks as well. Public Works is going, and they are actually notifying all those business owners individually that they are in the program. Okay, next small topic here is going to be abatement properties, and this is just a general understanding for everyone. So the county has set a deadline of 30 June, and that is for those that opted out of the debris removal, that opted out of the government program and are going to do private debris removal. So 30 June, they have to have that debris removed from their property. At that point, they will go through the abatement process, and then their deadline to get those properties to us is 15 July. So we should be receiving a few hundred, maybe, properties, additional properties at that time. So again, the deadline is 15 July for those properties to come to us. I was going to talk about something a little bit different today. So, we have a call center here, and as folks have concerns or issues, they notify our call center. And one of the topics that we hear a lot about is trees. So just for understanding, right now there's about 50 or so folks that have inquiries regarding trees. Of those 50, about 45 of them are actually homeowners that want us to reassess their property because they want more trees removed from their property. And again, we are only removing hazard trees. And so those are very clearly defined with the 3 categories or 3 criteria. So first criteria being 6 inches in diameter at a height of 4 feet above the ground. Second criteria is that it's tall enough so that if it were to fall, it would fall on an improved structure. That's your property, the neighbor's property, or the right-of-way. And then the third criteria being that tree will die within 5 years as assessed by a certified arborist. Again, we are going to, some folks have called us to continually reassess their properties multiple times, hoping that we will find more hazard trees every time. Again, we're going to stop doing that. So again, if you're trying to do a reassessment on your property, again, we're going to stop sending arborists back to your property multiple times in hopes of them finding more hazard trees. So please just, at some point we have to kind of stop the reassessments. And then lastly, I'll just a reminder, we've also been getting a lot of folks lately that are asking us to do things that are a little bit beyond the scope. So removing driveways, removing flat work, retaining walls, things like that. Just please make sure that you read the right of entry. Some of these things, so for example, a driveway that gets damaged, that's considered incidental damage. And again, we are not allowed to remove those driveways as part of our work under this FEMA program. So again, nope, a lot of good progress all around the board. And that concludes my update. I'll be standing by for questions throughout the process. Thanks.
Thank you, Colonel. And as a reminder for folks who are tuning in via YouTube, if you would like to ask a question, please join us on Zoom. The link has been pinned to the top of the YouTube chat. Join us on Zoom and use the question and answer function on the Zoom platform to submit your questions, and agency representatives will answer them in real time. Moving on to our next presentation with Kiara from the Department of Public Works.
Great. I believe you have some slides. Perfect. Queued up for me. Thank you. Excellent. And we'll jump right into the first slide. I'm Kiara Barnett with LA County Public Works, and I appreciate the time today to provide a rebuilding progress update and to talk through some common errors and omissions that we see on plans. So if we could please move to the next slide. Great. So first, to provide an update on permit progress, shown on screen is our current recovery dashboard as of this morning. 722 applications have been received by LA County for rebuilds in the Eaton unincorporated area. Planning review those plans first for what is proposed to be built and where on the site, and planning have cleared 474 applications. Once full building plans are prepared and submitted, a project progresses into the plan review stage for how the structure is proposed to be built. To date, 289 projects have progressed to building plan review with full building plans submitted. 29 rebuild permits have been issued in Altadena. On this dashboard, we show the total number of parcels with damaged or destroyed structures, and we've added a second tile to the right of that reflects the number of units. So that's going to include if there's a single family residence and maybe an accessory dwelling unit, multifamily residential units, and non-residential units. We do have a guide that's linked. You can see it here at the bottom of the screen that provides more information about the data presented on the dashboard. And so again, that's linked on the dashboard page. For permits issued to date, the 29 permits in Eaton, the average number of business days from initial submittal to the county to issuance has been 44 business days. And continuing on to the next slide, for permit approval timelines. For planning, as the number of applications submitted has increased, turnaround timelines have continued to improve. This graph shows the number of days on the left and the number of submittals on the right. So as the submittal count has increased, which is depicted by the gray part of the graph here, or the blue line, so that shows our number of submittals increasing. And the orange line is the number of business days for initial reviews. And planning are currently averaging 4 business days if you take that orange line over to the number of business days on the left. So planning are at 4 business days for initial reviews. And if we could go to the next slide, please. Here's a more detailed breakdown of those numbers of submittals, a number of application submittals to planning each month, and also the average number of days. So you can see again, as the number of submittals applications has increased, the number of business days has gone down for an overall average of 8, but they're currently at 4 business days here in June. And if we can move to the next slide, please. So these are the Public Works Building Department numbers. And building are averaging 8 business days for initial reviews and 2 business days for resubmittals. So again, here you can see the number of applications submitted each month, which is steadily increasing. And we've continued to meet the turnaround time commitments because each of the permitting departments are committed to 10 business days for initial reviews and 5 business days for additional reviews. So overall, the building department's been averaging 8 business days on initial reviews and 2 business days for resubmittals. And if we could move to the next slide, please. So this is that information depicted graphically for the building department, showing again the increase in building plans with the blue line. The orange line is the number of days for initial submittal reviews, and the green line is the number of days for the resubmittal turnaround reviews. And so again, averaging 3 business days there currently in June. Great, and if we can move to the next slide, please. Today, I would like to talk about some common errors and omissions that are seen on plans. So first, we'll start with planning. And so we do get some incomplete applications. So some applications are delayed because they don't have all the necessary documentation upon submittal. For example, if a property is owned by a trust, an LLC, or a corporation, applicants must provide proof of ownership, and that is not always provided. There's also an owner acknowledgement form, which must include the owner's signature and contact information, and that's a required submittal for every application. Frequently, we do see missing site plans, floor plans, or elevation drawings, which are essential for all reviews. And so here on screen, you see a sample of what a site plan, floor plan, and elevation views should include. Common corrections from planning to date have included that plans must be drawn to scale and include clear dimensions like the height of the building, the setback, which is the distance from the structure to the property line, and the structure size. We do see site plans that have left out important details, such as protected oak tree zones, easements, the height of fences, and basement data. And for zoning compliance, projects can be delayed if they don't comply with residential design standards, which include requirements such as where the front door is placed or canopy tree requirements. For like rebuilds, it's essential to remain within the 10% or 200 square foot allowable addition limit and to provide documentation of what was on the property before the fire. Planning will accept photos, plans, records, and so providing documentation showing the building size and placement is a required step. And also for non-like submittals, plans must comply with the current zoning code requirements, and they often are submitted and don't meet either the current code required setbacks, which is again the distance between the property line and the structure, or maybe the minimum parking requirements. So it is recommended for planning to have a consultation appointment. You can walk in and see a planner at the Altadena One Stop Permit Center, or there are consultation appointments available for scheduling Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. And so talking through with the planner to understand the design process helps to ensure your submittal is complete and has all the necessary documentation. And if we could move to the next slide, please, for the building department. So building have created a rebuild minimum plan submittal requirements document, which details all of the information that must be included on the full building plans, including now architectural, structural, and energy plan sheets. For designers who are newer to constructing within unincorporated Los Angeles County, it's essential that they review and design to include Los Angeles County code amendments, which can be found for free on the Building and Safety website. And so I've linked that site here. Missing information that's been observed on plans can include detailed project information on the first sheet of your plan set. So on the first sheet of the plans, we need to know the proposed square footage, the number of floors, what height is proposed for the building, what type of construction, and what occupancy type. Also, plans must include the project address, the scope of work, contact information, and parcel details. Also, whether you're in a fire hazard severity zone, and a number of other essential pieces of information. And without this information, the plan check can't proceed. The first sheet of the plan must also include all separate permit requirements and deferred submittal requirements. For example, solars are required for rebuilds, PV panels. And while that's a deferred submittal item that can be submitted after you pull the permit at the appropriate stage of construction, but the plan should indicate that solar requirement. Similarly, for interior fire sprinklers, that's a deferred submittal item, but again, the plan should reflect the fire sprinkler requirement. There's also, some plumbing, electrical items, major ones that again might require separate permit. And so we have a section on the first sheet of the plans that indicates where separate permits will be required. The site plan should also show where utilities are located, including water, gas, and if you're on a private septic system, then that information should be shown on the site plan where applicable. And if we can move to the next slide, please. So on plans submitted to date, common errors and omissions have included roofing material specifications, including cool roof standards, which must be included on the architectural plans. Structural plans must show proper footings and shear wall connection details. If you are planning to reuse the existing foundation, your designer will need to submit a completed form and testing results. And so we've linked here, and I can provide information. It is on our recovery.lacounty.gov site to reuse the existing foundation, and that form should be submitted with your plans. Energy modeling often gets submitted incorrectly. So energy, Title 24 energy forms must be included with the submittal, and rebuilds should be modeled as new construction rather than an addition or alteration. Electric, gas, and appliances must be clearly marked. And if you're using gas appliances, you must show how you're meeting the California's electric ready requirements. And if we can move to the next slide, please. So for fire department, delays occur if applicants leave out critical information, such as a site plan that shows the location of the public fire hydrants within 450 feet of the property lines. As I discussed, although they're a deferred submittal item, meaning you can pull your permit and submit when appropriate during construction, but the project information on the cover sheet of the plans must indicate that interior fire sprinklers will be provided. It's important to know and that your designer know if your property is within a fire zone, and so that the designer designs to very high fire hazard severity zone requirements, if applicable. So for rebuilds within the very high fire hazard severity zone, you will go through fire department for a fuel modification plan review. Again, this is a deferred submittal item, and it should be noted on the cover sheet of your plans that you're in a very high fire hazard severity zone and fuel modification plans will be submitted. Buildings within the very high fire hazard severity zone need detailing for requirements of Chapter 7A of the code, which includes information on the windows, the doors, the openings, the vents, siding and roofing materials. And so I have a image here of where the fire zone is, but if you need help to know if your property is within a very high fire hazard severity zone, we have that information also on our recovery.lacounty.gov site linked. And if we could move to the next page, please. So for properties on a private septic system, you must show the location of the septic system and the distance from the proposed structures to the septic system, including any drain fields or future leach lines. Public health must review an up-to-date system evaluation report to ensure the septic system still functions properly. And then applicants sometimes don't count rooms equivalent to bedrooms, but the rooms within the space must be accurately labeled for public health review. And if we could move to the next slide, please. So an overview of errors and omissions on plans and why there's a noticeable gap between the number of zoning clearances issued and the number of plan check applications submitted. It's not unexpected that there's a delay between zoning and building as designers are preparing the full design package. And there can be a number of reasons that can be dependent on why plans take a while to progress into the building plan check stage. So these reasons can include backlog on the part of architects, design professionals, or structural engineers who need to submit the full building plans. We have actually been calling designers in the weeks after they've received their comments or corrections to inquire on when they think they'll resubmit. And for some projects, it has taken a number of weeks for designers or applicants to revise and resubmit plans. An applicant or owner may be waiting on insurance proceeds before they have the financial capacity to move forward with the process. An applicant or owner might decide to sell the property with the approved zoning clearance and or the approved plans rather than rebuilding on the property themselves. The plan check can be completed, but the architect, contractor, or owner needs to obtain the necessary clearances, such as a will serve letter from the water company before they can pull the permit. The owner applicant sometimes isn't ready to pay for the permit fees and inspections. And sometimes an applicant hasn't hired a contractor or their contractor is not yet ready to start work. So again, these are some of the reasons that a plan might be within the process, but not yet issued. And if we can move to the next slide, please. So for our minimum plan submittal document that I referenced, and it's linked here on this page, we have included additional resources and helpful links for your use or for use by your design team. For example, we have a plan review correction list that your designer can review in advance to know what the plan check team will be reviewing for. There's also other helpful resources here. If you have a hillside property and need to know about building near a slope, if you're in the very high fire hazard severity zone, what those requirements are. And then if we could go to the next slide, please. I'd just like to close by sharing that we have our next Rebuilding Together virtual workshop planned for Saturday, January 28th from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. This will be a virtual session that will be recorded and posted on our website. And you can sign up with the QR code here on screen or by visiting our recovery.lacounty.gov rebuilding site. The topic for this next virtual session will be our Resilient Rebuilding Resources Guide, which provides detailed information and resources for planning, designing, and constructing high-performing and resilient sites and structures. And I believe that concludes my slides and my presentation today. And I'll stick around for if there's any questions later on.
Thank you, Kiara.
Thank you.
Transitioning now to the Department of Regional Planning, Director Bodek, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for allowing me to come back this week. We actually proposed a topic to present to you related to outdoor advertising signs in Altadena. And I would like to introduce Ms. Sharon Goodry. She is our Deputy Director for Land Use Regulations, and she's going to walk through a few slides for your information. I am also available in the chat if you'd like to ask any additional questions. Thank you. Sharon, I'm turning it over to you.
Thank you, Amy, and thank you to the group for allowing us to come and share some information regarding this emergent issue in Altadena. Also have Alex Garcia here as well to help with answering any questions later. Alex is the Assistant Deputy Director of Land Use Regulations. And this afternoon, we're just going to talk a little bit, share some information about the background regarding temporary construction signs and outdoor advertising signs in the Altadena area, how the regulations apply to these signs, and the protocol that we have implemented in order to address these signs. You said I'm sorry. Let's see if I can get my headphones on. I'm sorry. Let's see real quick. Sorry.
Hi, Sharon is just putting in new headphones to see if she can improve the sound quality.
Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Sorry about that. So as I mentioned, just to repeat very quickly, we're going to talk about what we are doing to address the outdoor advertising signs in Altadena, a little background and the regulations that apply and the protocol that we have implemented to address this issue in the area. Next slide. So just a little background. In March of this year, we began receiving complaints regarding building contractors, signs advertising on properties in the Altadena area, and we began looking into those signs at the time. We've received in that time both strong support for these signs from community members and some pretty strong opposition to them as well. We currently have approximately 70 cases where we have received complaints regarding these signs. And as you can see, the signs could be, range from large signs, multiple signs, smaller signs, banners. The signs are different types of signs in nature that we have observed during this time. Some of the signs have been placed on residential properties with the owner's consent, and we have also learned that other owners are unaware that signs have been placed on their property. I keep losing my my sound. I'm sorry. Can you hear me a little better?
Sharon, can you pull your microphone close to your mouth?
Yep, I have it right now. Sorry.
And if that doesn't work, you'll all have to suffer with my scratchy voice.
Prepared as well, and he is prepared to give the presentation.
Much better.
Yeah,
much
can you hear
better.
me now? Okay, I'm so sorry. So let's back up just a little bit. The background is, as I shared, beginning in March of 2025, we began receiving complaints regarding the placement of building contractor advertising signs in the area. Since that time, we received communication from the community who strongly support the signs in the community, and also those who have strong opposition. The signs vary in types of signs, from multiple signs on one property, large signs, smaller signs, banners. There are several types of signs that we have observed have been placed on properties affected by the fire in the community. Some of those signs have been placed with the property owner's consent. Well, we have also learned that some signs have shown up on properties where the owners were not aware or had not given permission for those signs. We currently have approximately 70 active cases regarding in response to complaints regarding these signs, and they are in various stages. We are in various stages of contact with business owner and property owners regarding these signs. We have developed what we believe is a sensitive enforcement protocol, taking into consideration the concerns from the community. on both sides and taking into consideration what you all have been through over the last several months. And we believe this sensitive protocol addresses the concerns in an equitable way. Next slide. The regulations that apply to these signs, most of these signs fall into the category of outdoor advertising signs. And outdoor advertising signs are defined in the code as a sign that directs the public's attention to their business that is not conducted or offered on the site where the sign is actually erected or placed. And that's only allowed in industrial zones with a conditional use permit. So as you can see from the picture depicted in the top of this slide, there's a large sign. It's advertising a contractor business, maybe a builder or some other trade. That sign of that size, advertising a business that is not operated or conducted on that site, is classified as an outdoor advertising sign, is not permitted in a residential zone. Temporary construction signs, however, are allowed in residential zones. Maximum square foot of 12 feet for those signs, and they are allowed to be posted on the property during construction with an active building permit. And they are also allowed to remain on the property 30 days after the completion of the construction project. We've heard from the community, those who are strongly in support of a desire to notify and provide information to the community and the neighbors about contractors that are an option for rebuild and other construction related work. And the code does provide allowances for that under temporary construction signs once a building permit has been issued and not to exceed 12 square feet in total sign area. And that's depicted in the bottom photo in the slide. Next slide. So as I mentioned, taking into consideration what we've heard from the community and taking into consideration all that you have gone through as a community, we've developed what we believe is a sensitive approach to dealing with the issue. And that approach includes first contacting the business owners that are advertised on the sign to advise them when the sign is not in compliance with the code, that it is in violation, and asking them to remove that within 7 days of that contact. After 7 days, if we, after a re-inspection is conducted and we determine that the sign has not been removed by the contractor, then we are sending a courtesy notice to the property owners. As I mentioned earlier, some property owners are not aware that these signs have been placed on their property. So we have implemented a courtesy notice procedure in order to provide the property owner with information on what the code requires, and also to have an opportunity to remove the signs, have the contractor remove the signs before any additional action is concerned. However, we do believe that it is necessary to enforce the code in relation to this in the area. So if our efforts to get compliance through directly the contractor without bother to the property owner, and then a courtesy notice to the property owner if the sign has not been removed, our next step would be to send a notice of violation to the property owner and the contractor. And hopefully we don't have to get to that point. Our main priority is compliance and voluntary compliance without enforcement. So our hope is that we would not have to take any additional enforcement steps once we make those notifications and have those conversations. We have, since our enforcement started, had 6 unpermitted signs removed. So we're happy and we appreciate those property owners who have worked with the contractor to have the unpermitted signs removed. Next slide. There's several ways to file a complaint. We have placed that information here as well, and we can place that in the chat as well. But we do have our admin staff, call center staff, who can take phone calls We do need the location of the issue and some details about what the issue is, and also any additional information that will help us in the investigation. You can do that via phone, through email, and to our department through regular US mail, or on our website. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm not sure if I was audible, but Amy Bodak, our director, will be here to help answer questions in the chat. And I also have Alex Garcia, our Assistant Deputy Director of Land Use Regulation, here to answer any questions as well. And that's the end of my presentation.
Thank you, Sharon. Director Bodak, did you have anything to add?
No, I do not. I'm answering questions in the chat if anyone has any questions for Sharon and I. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And in just a second, we'll get that Zoom QR code back up on the screen. For those of you on YouTube that would like to join us, please scan the QR code on your screen. We'll leave it up for about another minute as we transition to our next presenter from DCBA. Sam, the floor is yours.
Excellent, thank you. I believe there is a couple of slides moving up. So just to start off, thank you, Supervisor Barger, for the opportunity to share an update from the Department of Consumer and Business Affairs. DCBA is here to help residents recover from this disaster. Our goal is to ensure that consumers, homeowners, and tenants, all alike, are protected and have access to the resources they need during, this times of crisis. We know that many Altadena homeowners are dealing with companies and contractors to either rebuild their home entirely or repair a standing home that suffered damage in the Eaton fire. Hiring a contractor can actually be a pretty complicated process, especially if somebody's unfamiliar with it. So we wanted to share a few important tips. Also, just to make a quick note, we've been receiving some complaints about contractors, contracts, possible deceptive business practices. We've been receiving complaints of individuals that are dealing with liens that have been placed on their properties, which we'll share more about in a moment. Something to remember, it is critical to keep in touch throughout any process of hiring a contractor, in touch with your insurance company throughout the entire process from beginning to end. It's important to understand your policy limits and what you may be responsible for when it comes to paying out of pocket for a job. So first, let's briefly review the basics about remediation and restoration work and hiring a contractor. Next slide, please. So remediation versus restoration. Remediation services typically remove hazardous conditions and materials to prevent further damage to a property. Examples include mold, fire debris, smoke damage, asbestos, and water damage. Restoration services are different from remediation. Restoration services typically include the repair or rebuilding of a section of a property, essentially reverting it back to its pre-damage condition. Now, it's important to understand too, remediation and restoration are often used interchangeably, in the industry. So it's important to understand the difference, and understanding that difference can actually help you avoid hiring the wrong contractor and potentially overpaying. Next slide, please. So only hired licensed contractors. If the job you're having is done it's going to cost $1,000 or more, contractors are required to have a valid license from the California Contractor State License Board, also known as the CSLB. Our slide does still say $500. I'm sorry about that. It is actually $1,000 in California now as of January 2025. You can actually verify a license of a contractor at the Contractor State License Board website. It'll be listed there at the bottom, cslb.ca.gov. Contractors will have licenses specific to the type of the work that they do. So an actual full list of license classifications, we recommend that you do visit, the CSLB website. Next slide, please. Get a contract in writing. Before you sign anything, make sure you review a full written contract, which must include the total price and the payment schedule, the scope of the work that you're signing up for, and a change of order terms. You want to understand the timeline and the permits that are going to be required to complete this job. The contractor's license number should be on the contract, and also the cancellation policy. Nowadays, many contractors are actually going to use an electronic device such as an iPad, a tablet, a laptop computer for you to read and sign your contract. While it is new and unconventional, it's important to understand that this is actually legal. However, you should never feel rushed to click and sign, any of these documents. It's important to understand that you should take your time to review the terms and understand what you're getting into. You would always want to request a copy for your records after you do sign. This copy can be in paper or an electronic copy that will be sent out to you either by email or text message. When you are asked to make a down payment, it's important to understand you should not make a down payment more than $1,000 or 10% of the total project cost, whichever is less. Next slide, please. Check for contractor's insurance. You're going to want to ask for proof of general liability insurance. Ask about the coverage limits, the effective and expiration dates, and any coverage exclusions. You're going to want to ask about workers' compensation for their employees. You can actually check the Contractor State License Board, the CSLB website, to verify that they do hold these policies. Companies that don't have actual employees though, might be exempt from workers' compensation. This is important because it's going to protect you in the case of an accident or damage claims that occurred during the project or on your property. Next slide. Hazardous cleanup. Companies that do clean up hazardous materials such as mold or asbestos must follow EPA and Cal OSHA rules for the safe removal and disposal of these materials. Under California law, any construction related work actually involving $1,000 or more in labor or materials requires a contractor to be licensed with the CSLB. Companies actually may do cleanup work without a license only if that work does not require a license by the Contractor State License Board. Next slide, please. If something goes wrong, especially something like, you experienced a project by an individual who's not licensed to do that work, or maybe you have a perception that the work was poor or maybe it was incomplete. The Contractor State License Board does accept complaints online, and they do accept paper complaints. Information for that can be found on the CSLB website. Next slide, please. So canceling a contract. If you did sign a contract with a contractor who came to your door or maybe approached you at your home, California law actually gives you special protections. Here's what you need to know about your right to cancel such contracts. For home improvement contracts, you have the right to cancel within 3 days, a standard 3-day right to cancel. That actually applies when you signed a home improvement contract of $25 or more. The contractor solicited the contract at your home or somewhere other than their place of business. And this contract was not initiated by the property owner at the contract's place of business. The 3-day right to cancel stands for most consumers like I had mentioned before, when it comes to door-to-door sales. The countdown actually starts the day after the contract is signed, excluding weekends and holidays if the contractor is closed. There is an extended 5-day right to cancel for individuals who are signing these contracts who are age is 65 and older. California Civil Code 1689.7 gives you 5 business days to cancel, as long as the contract, again, was solicited in your home or a non-business location. It is also important to understand, too, that if the sales contract was signed or if it takes place in a declared disaster zone, just like the Altadena fire, after the fire, cancellation rights may extend to actually 7 days. If the contract is negotiated in the contractor's place of business, though, the 3 or 5-day right to cancel does not apply. It's also important to understand that once you do have that right to cancel or that you have it, do not allow the contractor to begin work or pull any permits during that period. How you cancel the contract depends on a couple of things. You're going to want to use the cancellation form provided by your contractor. It may require you to write your own letter or to fill out a certain form. It's recommended that you deliver it by certified mail or in person. We do also recommend that you keep a copy for your records and that you absolutely cancel before the deadline, 3 or 5 business days from the date of signing, depending on the age and the situation. Also, it's important, if the contractor failed to give you a cancellation form, your right to cancel might be extended. The Contractor State License Board does recommend that you reach out to them directly with this for further information. Next slide, please. So now we're going to sort of get into understanding mechanics liens. We wanted to share a few tips about understanding mechanics liens and just briefly go over that. Next slide, please. So mechanics lien is actually a legal claim that contractors or suppliers of materials that were used for a project can actually file against the property if those parties are left unpaid, either during the project or when it's completed. Even if you paid your main contractor, a lien can still be filed by a subcontractor. by maybe laborers or material suppliers. Now, why is this important? Well, a lien can actually affect your credit and the title to your property. An open lien can actually prevent or put a hold potentially on the sale of a property, or maybe a refinance that you might be going through. It could potentially lead to the forced sale of the home if the mechanics lien is in fact perfected. We'll go over that in a second. How to avoid a lien. There's something called a preliminary notice that we recommend property owners get from all the subcontractors and suppliers within 20 days from the start of the work or the delivery of the supplies to the property. It's important to keep a list also of all the workers and the suppliers that are involved throughout the process. You're going to want to request lien releases before each payment, especially the final payment, to make sure that you have documentation showing that people have been paid. You can also use joint checks that are made payable to both the contractor and the subcontractor, just so you understand too, or that everybody's getting paid and they don't come back looking for you. You can ask to request a file of a notice of completion to sort of shorten the lien filing deadlines after the project ends. Next slide, please. So perfecting a mechanics lien. So a preliminary notice must be served by a subcontractor or suppliers when they begin the work. A mechanics lien recorded with the must be recorded with the county recorder's office within 90 days of completing the work. Now, if a notice of completion or cessation is recorded, that gives the contractor the 60 days to file the mechanics lien, and it actually shortens the notice to 30 days for a supplier who wants to file a mechanics lien for not being paid. The next step would be the lien foreclosure lawsuit. Once the mechanics lien is recorded, that lawsuit has to be recorded within has to be filed within 90 days. Really quickly, it's important to understand too, when you are looking at a lien, you want to look at who filed the lien, what is the amount of the lien. You want to check for errors. Is the contractor licensed or a provider of materials? You want to contact the claimant and consider resolving it through negotiation. If you don't resolve it through negotiation, legal action would typically take place next. If you are served with a summons and complaint to address this in court, your next step would most typically be obtaining legal advice. If the lawsuit is not filed within 90 days, the mechanics lien will in fact expire, and the mechanic or the contractor would have to file a new mechanics lien moving forward. Next slide, please. Finally, if you do dispute that lien, just make sure that you are disputing it correctly under the advice of an attorney. It's very important because if you do have to go to court, you want to make sure that you are properly represented. Next slide. So if you need more information, please reach out to us at at our office here in downtown. We do have an office in the Altadena area, the new survivor support location, the Altadena Community Center, and you could reach us directly at our telephone number 800-593-8222. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sam. And in the interest of time, we're going to transition over to questions that were pre-submitted by community members. And the remaining presenters who were scheduled to speak today will be back early and have an opportunity to present early in the community meeting next week. So transitioning now to questions, we'll do our best to answer as many of them as we can in the allotted time. As a reminder, you can find answers to frequently asked questions on recovery.lacounty.gov/Altadena. Our first question is for Public Works or Army Corps. What do we do if our immediate next door neighbor does not allow Army Corps onto their lot to clear debris, and that neighbor has created a mountain of debris in their front yard?
I can jump in, and maybe if Public Works wants to jump in either. I think if the question is related to fire ash debris, I think that would be considered one of those properties that would more than likely get abated if they have not cleared that fire ash debris by 30 June. But I'll defer to Public Works if there's anything else that they want to add. Over.
Great, and unless anybody else is on from Public Works, I would say that yes, we would step in and abate the property at the owner's expense. So if the property owner, also if they're dumping illegally in the road right away, then we can open a separate property rehab case. So that could be reported online on our pw.lacounty.gov website via our The Works app, or you could email me at C as in cat, my last name Barnett, at pw.lacounty.gov.
Thank you both. And the next question is, where can we access the Foothill Home Building Catalog, and how many pre-approved homes are in that catalog?
Great question. So the LA County has received 37 pre-approved plan submittals since the program launched. And so far, planning have cleared 30. 11 have submitted full building plans and are in building plan review currently. So the program is open to all designers. Foothill Catalog are one applicant that we've received a plan from. So once approved, there'll be information added to a catalog. You can go to our recovery.lacounty.gov site under rebuilding and pre-approved plans. So we will link information for the designers and about the types of projects that they have approved. So those will be linked for the homeowner to reach out to the designers. And we are hoping to get our first plan approved here shortly. But again, currently 11 plans in review. And so as soon as they are approved, they'll be added to our catalog.
Thank you. Our next question is for regional planning, and it reads, for the first few months, property owners were told that single stories had to stay single story residents to be considered a like for like, or else the term is lost. However, now the one-stop shop is informing others that they can submit plans that are 2 stories when it was previously a single story home. Can you please clarify this particular point on what is the correct definition for a like for like rebuild?
Certainly, a like-for-like rebuild is just that. So if it is a single story and they are going to be within the same square footage, the same general footprint, and it's still going to be a single story home, then that is like for like. However, you can submit for a 2-story home if that's what you choose to do. It is not considered like for like, so it does have to go through a little bit of additional review with planning, particularly to ensure that all current setbacks and community standards, district development standards are met, that there are no oak tree encroachments and things like that. So it is perfectly acceptable for someone to submit for a 2-story home. It just would not be considered like for like. What we have determined is if you have a 2-story home and you want to go to a 1-story home, and you're going to keep the same footprint, you can do that, but you cannot increase the impact and still be considered like for like. If you have specific details or questions, I'm available in the chat, or you can email me at abodek@planning.lacounty.gov. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next question is for a representative from the assessor's office. It reads, we were charged interest on a late property tax payment while waiting for a reassessment on our property that was burned down. Is this going to be reimbursed along with an adjustment to the bill?
This is Matthew Guerrero from the assessor's office. So this question was answered, and I referred the constituent to an email, and we will have an appraiser specialist review their particular property tax bill and then provide guidance based on that review.
Thank you, Matthew. And can you share if there's a general phone number or an email address so that if anybody else has a similar issue, they also can reach out?
I would advise constituents to go on the assessor public-facing website. And on the website, there is a feature called Contact the Assessor. And by filling out the Contact the Assessor form, what that does is it generates an email. And based on the questions that they answer, it will also route the email to the appropriate unit within the assessor's office. And then staff from the assessor's office will reach out to the constituent if they have further questions, or if they haven't answered, they'll get an answer back from the assessor's office as well. So I would advise them to go on the website and use either the contact the assessor form, or if they go to the contact us, they can also see the addresses and phone numbers for their local assessor's district office. And they can also utilize that to talk to somebody directly by phone, or if they want to go in to one of our public counter areas, they can do that at either one of the 4 district office locations that are open Monday through Fridays.
Thank you, Matthew. And very quickly, we have time for one final question for our representatives with the Department of Insurance. What recourse does a resident have when property insurance companies notify that they will not issue a, quote, builder risk insurance in California, and that upon expiration, the current property insurance policy will not be renewed?
So this is a good question. And, just the wording of this makes it a little interesting, because right now, after the fires, California is currently under an insurance moratorium where it protects all homeowners, all residential policies from cancellations or non-renewals for at least 1 year until that moratorium expires on January 6, 2026. But also those homes that suffered a total loss, they're also granted 2 additional extensions of their residential policy during the rebuilding process. So hearing that this insurance company is saying that upon expiration, they're not going to be renewed, and they're not issuing that policy in California, sounds like this might be a company that is part of the surplus or non-admitted market, which may not be subject to a lot of the rules required in California. But that's just speculation based on the question that as it was asked. So this person, I would recommend them calling us at our Department of Insurance at 1-800-927-4357 and starting their request for assistance process. This is what we're going to present a little bit more upon next week as well for more information on that. But I would recommend this person. This is exactly the type of case we would recommend contacting us, 1-800-927-4357.
Thank you, Rob. And thank you all for joining us. That's all the time we have today. We'll see you again next week.